They say Hollywood is all smoke and mirrors, but what if I told you that some of cinema's greatest tough guys weren't acting at all? These men brought something to the screen that no amount of method acting could fake. Real combat experience, genuine physical danger, and scars that makeup artists didn't create. Before we reveal which beloved star's military record was so unbelievable that studios actively hid it from the public, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I absolutely love connecting with fellow classic film enthusiasts from around the world. Picture this. A 5'5" baby-faced soldier who looked like he couldn't hurt a fly. Now imagine that same man single-handedly holding off an entire company of German soldiers for an hour, then leading a successful counterattack while wounded and completely out of ammunition. Sounds like a Hollywood script, right? Wrong. This was Audie Murphy's Tuesday afternoon in France. Murphy wasn't just decorated, he was the most decorated American combat soldier of World War II, earning every single U.S. military combat award for valor available at the time, plus 5 decorations from France and Belgium. By his 21st birthday, he'd received 28 military medals. Military historians estimate he personally eliminated between 240 and 300 enemy soldiers. Think about that for a second. That's more than many entire military units achieved throughout the entire war. Here's the kicker that'll blow your mind. When Murphy starred in To Hell and Back, playing himself in his own life story, the producers had to tone down his actual achievements because they feared audiences would think they were making it up. Director Jesse Hibbs later admitted, "We had to leave out some of Audie's actual feats because no one would have believed them." Imagine being so genuinely tough that Hollywood has to make you seem less impressive just to be believable. But wait, it gets even more extraordinary. Security guards at the studio initially refused to believe this innocent-looking young man was the war hero they'd been expecting. His second wife once revealed something chilling. In public, he was shy, soft-spoken, and gentle. But I've seen him wake up from nightmares and become someone I didn't recognize. A hardened killer with instincts that frightened me. Now, before I tell you about the Marine who survived something that would have ended most men's careers and lives, let me share a story that'll change how you see Charles Bronson forever. Born Charles Bukinski, Bronson didn't grow up playing cowboys and Indians. He was working in coal mines by age 10, spending his childhood hundreds of feet underground in near total darkness. One of 15 children in a desperately poor family, he developed that famous weathered face and permanent squint not from practicing in a mirror, but from years of breathing coal dust in Pennsylvania's dangerous mines. During World War II, Bronson flew 25 combat missions over Japan as a B-29 aerial gunner, earning a Purple Heart for wounds sustained in battle. But here's what separated him from other Hollywood tough guys. When Bronson threw a punch on screen, it didn't look choreographed because it wasn't really choreographed. This was a man who'd been in real fights and knew exactly how violence worked. Film historian Eddie Muller put it perfectly. When Bronson throws a punch on screen, it doesn't look choreographed. It looks like a man who has been in real fights and knows how to hurt someone efficiently. His co-star, Jan Michael Vincent, once recalled feeling Bronson's grip during a scene. This wasn't an actor pretending to be strong. This was genuine power developed through years of hard labor. Speaking of genuine power, Lee Marvin brought something to his roles that most actors could never achieve. The authentic 1,000-yard stare of a combat veteran who'd seen the worst humanity had to offer. As a Marine scout sniper in the Pacific, Marvin participated in 21 beach assaults, including the brutal Battle of Saipan where machine gun fire severed his sciatic nerve. In just 15 minutes, his company of 247 men was reduced to 6 survivors. 6. Let that sink in. Unlike some veterans who romanticize their service, Marvin was brutally honest. Any man who says he enjoyed combat is either a liar or a fool. This authenticity made him uniquely qualified to portray violence on screen. Director John Boorman observed, "He understood violence in a way most actors never will. When he portrayed a violent man, there was a truth to it that came from having seen men K-word and be K-worded." The most telling indicator of Marvin's toughness? His infamous bar fight with an entire team of lumberjacks while filming in Oregon. Well into his 40s, Marvin held his own against several much younger men until police arrived. The next morning, he showed up on set on time, sporting bruises, but refusing medical attention. Now here's where our story takes an unexpected turn with Steve McQueen, a man whose real-life adventures often outshined his movie stunts. McQueen's rebellious streak started early. In the Marines, he was demoted 7 times for insubordination and once spent 41 days in the brig. Yet when it mattered, he saved 5 Marines during an Arctic exercise when their tank broke through ice. After Hollywood, he didn't leave danger behind. He embraced it. During The Great Escape, McQueen performed all his own motorcycle stunts except the famous fence jump, and only because insurance companies threatened to shut down production. At the 1970 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the world's most prestigious races, McQueen finished 2nd overall while racing with a cast on his foot from a motorcycle accident. His friend Bud Ekins said it best: Steve wasn't playing at being a racer or a tough guy, he was genuinely both. Perhaps most revealing? When Charles Manson's hit list included McQueen's name, he didn't hire bodyguards. He just started carrying a loaded Magnum everywhere. That's not Hollywood bravado. That's genuine confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. But if you want to talk about fighting your way up from nothing, let's discuss Kirk Douglas. Born Isher Danielovich to Jewish immigrants so poor they sometimes went without food. Douglas earned a college scholarship not through academics, but through wrestling. Legitimate collegiate wrestling that required genuine strength and skill. During World War II, he served aboard a submarine chaser in dangerous anti-submarine warfare. But what truly separated Douglas was his combination of physical power and iron will. Stanley Kubrick, who famously clashed with Douglas on Spartacus, later admitted, "Kirk was an absolute force of nature. When he decided something was going to happen, it happened. Period." For Spartacus, Douglas trained with ex-gladiators and actual wrestlers. During one scene, he insisted on performing a dangerous fall that the stunt coordinator advised against. His injuries would have sidelined most actors for weeks. Douglas returned after 2 days. Even more impressive, after a helicopter crash in 1991 that K-worded 2 other people, Douglas, in his 70s, fought through excruciating rehabilitation to walk again. Then, after a severe stroke in 1996 that impaired his speech, he underwent years of therapy and published a book about his recovery. That's not acting tough, that's being tough. Now remember I mentioned someone whose background studios tried to hide? James Cagney, at 5'5", was pound for pound one of the genuinely toughest men in Hollywood history. Growing up on Manhattan's Lower East Side, Cagney learned to box not as a sport but as survival. The streets were ruled by gangs, and being small meant you had to be tougher and quicker than everyone else. He became an accomplished amateur boxer with lightning-fast hands and footwork that would later become his signature style. What audiences didn't realize watching Cagney's incredibly realistic fight scenes was that they were watching a man who'd been in dozens of real street fights. Director Raoul Walsh noted, "Jimmy knew how to throw a punch better than any actor I ever worked with because he'd thrown plenty of real ones in his day." All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say, the Duke in the room. John Wayne's toughness is controversial today, but the physical facts are undeniable. While Wayne didn't serve in World War II, a decision that haunted him, he endured something perhaps even more dangerous without knowing it. During the filming of The Conqueror in 1954, the cast and crew worked just 137 miles downwind from a nuclear test site. Of the 220 people involved, 91 developed cancer, including Wayne himself. Think about that. Wayne essentially worked in a radioactive environment, unknowingly exposing himself to deadly fallout. The government had assured them it was safe, but 60 tons of contaminated dirt were even shipped to Hollywood for reshoots. Despite likely developing cancer from this exposure, Wayne continued performing his own stunts. After having a lung and ribs removed due to cancer, he returned to action scenes just months later. Director Henry Hathaway recalled, "I tried to convince Duke to use a stunt double after his surgery. He just looked at me and said, 'Either I do my own stunts or you get someone else for the part.'" let me share something about Robert Mitchum that perfectly captures authentic toughness. The man spent time on a Georgia chain gang as a teenager. After being arrested for vagrancy during the Depression, Mitchum experienced firsthand the brutal reality that most actors only pretended to understand. Before Hollywood, he worked as a ditch digger, coal miner, and professional boxer, fighting under the name Kid Mitchum. And yes, those were real punches that gave him that distinctive broken nose. When Mitchum was arrested for marijuana possession in 1948, a career-ending scandal at the time, he served 60 days in prison with the same cool detachment that characterized his screen performances. Rather than destroying him, it enhanced his reputation for authentic toughness. Director Charles Lawton was stunned during The Night of the Hunter when Mitchum easily carried actress Shelley Winters for take after take without showing strain. But here's what truly revealed Mitchum's character. When asked about his approach to acting, he said, "Look, I have two acting styles, with and without a horse." That's not false modesty. That's the perspective of someone who'd experienced enough real drama to recognize the relative unimportance of pretending. Finally, let's end with two men whose backgrounds shaped their authentic screen presence in unique ways. Anthony Quinn's earliest memories included soldiers, gunfire, and his family's desperate flight from the Mexican Revolution. By age 10, he was already working as a butcher's assistant, then as a professional boxer, fighting not for glory, but to put food on the table. That broken nose wasn't makeup. It was from real fights when losing meant your family didn't eat. During Zorba the Greek, Quinn carried logs that normally required two men, performing feats of strength that impressed even the local Greek laborers. Director Elia Kazan observed, "Tony doesn't act tough. He simply is tough." And Charlton Heston, while known for his epic roles, his toughness was proven during World War II as an aerial gunner, then repeatedly throughout his career. For Ben-Hur, he learned to drive chariots, suffering numerous injuries. For the agony and the ecstasy, he spent hours daily with arms raised overhead, developing painful muscle spasms that required medical attention, yet refused more comfortable positions between takes. These weren't just actors playing heroes. They were men who'd already proven their heroism before ever stepping in front of a camera. They brought authenticity to their roles because they'd lived through genuine danger, real combat, and actual hardship. Modern action stars might have personal trainers and CGI enhancement, but these men had something technology can't replicate: the look in the eyes of someone who's faced death and lived to tell about it. That's something you can't fake, no matter how good an actor you are. If this deep dive into Hollywood's real tough guys blew your mind, hit that like button and subscribe for more untold stories from cinema's golden age. And seriously, I want to know, which of these genuine tough guys surprised you the most? Drop a comment below. Your insights always make these conversations so much richer. Until next time, remember, in old Hollywood, sometimes the toughest performances weren't performances at all.